Hey guys, what is up? This is Matthew Davis, me once again. Welcome back to the movie review, aka After I Saw. I'm staying over with my dad for Christmas. My family is not my whole family, but yeah, it's just a tradition. But anyways, this time I'm going to be reviewing Babylon, directed by Damien Chazelle, one of my favorite filmmakers of the past decade. I've enjoyed every single movie he's made, even though he made 3 at the time. So I was really looking forward to seeing this film. Anytime I see the director's name, I instantly get excited. So anyways, let's talk about it. This movie stars Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, Diego Calva. This film takes place in the early age of filmmaking, from the 20s all the way up to the 50s. And from there, we see Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie interact with filmmaking, and we see how films are made from the silent ages of filmmaking to the more talkative days of filmmaking, way before the times we get more special effects in movies. So yeah, it's basically your basic movie about filmmaking, as we do get a lot of those, but those are films that I tend to get excited about. With movies like Ed Wood, Disaster Artist, this year's Fabelmans, we get so many of those. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This movie kind of reminds me a bit of that. Maybe it's just due to the fact that Brad Pitt was in that film as well. And there are times where it kind of reminds me of a Tarantino film, just without all the foot stuff. Critics have been very split on this film. It's not nearly as much acclaim as his last few films. I feel like when it comes to this movie, Damien Chazelle definitely knows what he's trying to do. And for the most part, I think he definitely succeeds. While it's definitely something that we have seen before, though this movie is very long, it's over 3 hours long. And does it earn its runtime? Well, I could definitely say this. The movie is dazzling. This is a very nice looking film. And the story itself, like throughout the movie focuses a lot on different characters, specifically Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie's characters, as well as Margot Robbie's relationship with Diego Calva, as they sort of have a romantic relationship, but it's not really fully like that, as we see Margot Robbie go all out with her performance as well as Brad Pitt. He's basically playing, like, of course, a guy with, sass and stuff. They're basically playing actors with different types of, styles to them. And when it comes to their story arcs, it's kind of hard to fully follow because it cuts to them a lot throughout the movie, as well as other character arcs, including Diego Calva's. But there's just so much that the actors give to their characters that it's very hard to fully be mad at the story and how it's kind of hard to fully follow, because I feel like Damien Chazelle does a really good job with the style of the movie. I mean, he goes all out, and this movie is rated R for a reason. Like, the first 20 minutes of this movie, it was not what I expected. In fact, it was pretty raunchy. This is by far his raunchiest film. Like, his first film was R-rated, but it was mostly rated R for language. This one is R-rated for language, sexual content, violence, and even drug use. So he just went all out with this one and made it as raunchy as he possibly could. Though it's not always like that. Like, there are times where, honestly, the first, half of the movie, I think, is by far the best when it comes to the pacing, because when it comes to the second act, it's not nearly as well paced. Like, it definitely slows down, but when it comes to the last 40 minutes, I think it definitely picks back up. Because the first half is truly where all the filmmaking comes to play. And if you expect that to happen throughout the entire film, it's not really like that. Like I mentioned before, it's definitely more of a character-driven movie than it is a flat-out movie about making films. But when it comes to the tribute of filmmaking, Damien Chazelle manages to get it right for the early days of filmmaking when it comes to silent films, to talkative films. And when it comes to movies about filmmaking, I mean, we've got this and The Fabelmans. I think The Fabelmans manages to get it a little bit better, but what Chazelle does here is very unique. Even though it's really hard to follow with every little detail of the storyline, I feel like Damien Chazelle manages to put so much style into the film, and the performances, everyone, like every single person in this movie, is terrific. I mean, we've seen Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie in so many great films before, so I think it's safe to say their performances really saved this one. They are really entertaining in this movie, and their writing, too, never feels boring, though there are some times where they mix up some swear words, which Kind of makes the dialogue a little bit cheesy, which if I say certain parts, I'm probably going to get this video demonetized, so I'm not going to do that. But the writing can be a bit cheesy at parts, but it still manages to be very entertaining, and when they're on screen, it never feels like the movie drags on far too long. Though there is a scene at a party that definitely slows the movie's pacing down a bit. I'm definitely going to say this, it's not going to please every single person. I mean, I can definitely see where the criticisms come from because it is frustrating to get into the story, but it's kind of like with Avatar Way of the Water, how that, not just because that movie's 3 hours long as well, but I mean, the story in that film is pretty basic and is easier to follow. And RRR is another film that's kind of easier to follow as well, and that movie is just so over the top that it pretty much doesn't matter. This film, I feel like when it comes to its storyline, it's a bit more frustrating to get into with all the different character arcs, but Damien Chazelle went all out with the style of the movie and how the movie just never really slows down with how bizarre certain scenes are. Even when it does seem like some certain aspects of the movie do drag on a bit, it definitely picks back up during that certain scene when I mentioned with the party and stuff. But there are times where the movie just goes completely all out with its bizarreness. Is that even a word, bizarreness? But it almost really doesn't matter because the movie never felt boring. Even though they could have shaved off like 25 minutes, it doesn't fully earn its 3-hour runtime. I feel like that's a little bit of a problem. Like, there have been a lot of long movies to come out this year, and I think people are kind of getting tired of it because people just want to go right to the point with certain parts of the movie to make it fully earn its 3-hour runtime, if you understand what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't feel like Babylon doesn't quite earn it as much as Avatar Way of Water or The Batman or RRR has, but I can definitely say there aren't like certain parts that completely took away from the film. Like, it's definitely like going up a hill and then it goes down, but it goes back up. It's kind of like that. But for me, I found myself enjoying what Damien Chazelle was trying to do here, and I think he does a really good job with how the film industry was back then and how the way he handles it in this movie is still the way people probably handle it nowadays. It's definitely far more different back then than it was nowadays because this movie could be based on true events, though it never really pulls that out, but I could definitely believe it if it was. In the end, guys, Babylon is definitely flawed, but for me, I found myself enjoying most of what was going on. Damien Chazelle has crafted a very well acted film that definitely saves the whole trying to follow the story stuff because it's definitely a bit hard to fully piece the whole thing together. But since it mostly focuses on two characters, then it can definitely be forgiven. Like, it's oozing with style, and it's very raunchy, and it never feels like it goes on for too long. Even when it does, it picks right back up. It's definitely not going to be for everyone. Like, if you don't like all the raunchy stuff that happens in the movie, like, if you don't like the first 20 minutes, then you're probably not going to like the rest of the movie, because the first 20 minutes, they're, like, it's probably something I'm not going to forget, but sometimes it could get even crazier even after that. Even though I kind of wanted this movie to be a lot more than what I expected, I feel like what Damien Chazelle does here is just enough for me to find myself enjoying what he was going for, because it seems to be basic enough what he's trying to put into this film, but when it comes to its storyline and its character arcs, it can be a bit harder to follow, but it's oozing with style, and the music too, it's very jazzy. It just keeps it from being a flat-out snore fest, because it isn't. Even though it's lengthy, and even though it doesn't fully earn its length, I feel like what he has done here, I know exactly what he was trying to do here, and for the most part, it works. It might not be the masterpiece that he was trying to make here, but I feel like with multiple viewings, it might just get better over time. For me, I really enjoyed what he did here. It might not be the best film to come out this year, but I still found myself having a really good time. It might not be his best work yet. I kind of wanted it to be, but it's not as rewatchable as La La Land or Whiplash, because those films are a lot shorter and a bit easier to follow, but I still really dug what Damien Chazelle was doing here, and who knows, maybe with multiple viewings it might work, but if you're not into 3-hour long movies, then it might not matter for you. But as for me, I might see myself rewatching it in the future, but I'm going way too long with this. So the best way I can describe it is that it all depends of what you really wanted to see here. If you want a character-driven movie or a movie about making films, it's really going to depend. It's dividing a lot of audiences, but for me, I found myself really enjoying what was going on. It's not Damien Chazelle's best film, but it is probably his most stylish. I still recommend checking out the film this Christmas. Even if it's just for one viewing, I still recommend giving it a chance. It could have been better, but all in all, I still really enjoyed it. Damien Chazelle hasn't fully let me down yet. It was a bit disappointing, but hey, I still enjoyed it for what it was. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys have a great Christmas. And I do have quite a bit of videos to make after Christmas, so look forward to that. Like my top 10 best games and movies list, so look forward to that. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Word out.